All right, good morning, folks. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to the October, crazy to think it's October, Employee Forum meeting. Hang on a second while I get my stuff together. All right, folks. Well, we're going to kick things off with our usual Chancellor Roundtable, and this morning we have Chief of Staff Christi Hurt joining us via Zoom. So I'm going to turn it over to Christi to give us some updates. Thanks, Christi.
Good morning, Katie. Good morning, everyone. I shuddered. Oh, that's a really big image of me behind you, Katie. So I'm going to have to just cope with that for a minute. Great to see all of you remotely. I'm sorry I'm not with you today, and I'm also sorry that the Chancellor's not able to join you, but I'm happy to give you some updates about things that are going on that we want to share. And first and foremost, of course, our hearts go out to those impacted in Western North Carolina and all areas in the Southeast impacted by Hurricane Helene. As always, you know, your university, Carolina, is ready to provide support and relief as communities deal with the aftermath in the coming days and months, and just for the foreseeable future. As a part of the coordinated effort that we're all a part of in the UNC system, we're sending requested teams of professionals to help our sister areas and institutions with a variety of needs. As always, the Carolina Center for Public Service is our central point of coordination for all of that work, and the best source of information if you're trying to get involved or contribute in some way is to go to the Carolina Center for Public Service's website. That'll be a lot of useful information up there, and they're going to continue to collect and share that any information they have about how you can help across the state on their site. We have several units and organizations that have a lot of expertise and partnerships that will be integral to our overall response, and specifically the Gilling School of Global Public Health is uniquely qualified and stands ready to help our efforts, and so we've been working closely with them. An important thing to know for the weekend is that the homecoming football game is, of course, versus Pitt, and we're going to be accepting donations from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. around Keenan Stadium. So if you want to bring things to donate, all donations will be delivered to Western North Carolina by individuals, for individuals, of course, impacted by the events. As you know, serving others is a big part of who we are as a campus, and there will be many ways you can contribute to the effort. We've been told time and time again that we want to wait for direction before sort of scampering up to the western part of the state to help. We want to be coordinated in how we do that, and I'm really grateful for our teams who have been working with the system office to make sure that we're doing our work and support in a meaningful and helpful way. Moving on from that, of course, most of you probably are aware that we're hosting our installation of our new Chancellor, Lee H. Roberts, as a part of our annual University Day celebration next week on October 11th at 11 a.m. in Memorial Hall. In addition to the installation and overall celebration of our university's birth, if you will, we're also going to honor distinguished alumna and alumnus award winners. The awards will also be presented to deserving faculty and staff, including Trinette Clark-Goings of the UNC School of Social Work, who will receive the Edward Kidder Graham Award. And we're going to be honoring Shauna Harris, the director of the Carolina Women's Center, who will receive the Rebecca Clark Award for Moral Courage. We're really excited about this event. I hope you all will find time to join us and honor our collective universities, past, present, and future. A little bit about excellence and affordability. Carolina's mission, of course, is to provide an affordable, accessible, world-class education. We're deeply proud that our students take on less debt than many of their peers, thanks to our efforts to keep Carolina affordable. This is incredibly meaningful work that we continue to pursue. UNC-Chapel Hill, I'm pleased to announce, is ranked the number 5 public university in the country and is tied for number 27 overall in the 2025 U.S. News and World Report Best College Rankings. As a part of the Carolina community, you contribute to the operational success of the university, and thank you for everything you do to keep us at the top of those rankings. Carolina has been ranked among the top 5 public universities for 23 consecutive years. No small feat there. And thanks to our capital campaign and generous state funding, we can continue to help students afford college through our programs like the Carolina Covenant, our Blue Sky Scholars Program, and the Tar Heel Guarantee, our new program that fills any funding gaps for families who make $80,000 and have typical assets. That's the new guarantee that we created the summer of 2023. And so if you need more information about that, you can go to our financial aid websites. We also have a cool new program called Excellence Unveiled. And this is a program that UNC-Chapel Hill and WCHL are partnering on. It's an exciting new initiative. This is an opportunity to showcase Carolina's talented students, faculty, and staff to a local audience on WCHL, a great community partner radio station. Through several 90-second interviews, so short little bites, listeners will gain an understanding about the important people and their work in the university. I think this is really cool. I'm very excited about this. We're scheduled for the fall to have a couple of our all-stars on this program, and a few of the highlights coming up are Candace Powell, the director of the Carolina Covenant, Lynn Blanchard, of course, our director for the Carolina Center for Public Service and overall rock star in helping everything, everywhere. Jed Atkins, of course, our inaugural dean and director of the School for Civic Life and Leadership, and Jasmine King, a research assistance professor in the Ben Habor Research Laboratory in between UNC-Chapel Hill and NC State. So these are really cool opportunities to catch little tidbits about some of our all-stars at the university, and I encourage you all to dial in as you can. Next, I want to talk real briefly about our UNC Career Hub. This is an example of our commitment to serve as an engine of opportunity, if you will, for our Carolina community, including all of you. It's one way that we foster success, and this hub launched on September 17th. And if Chancellor Roberts were giving these remarks, I would be typing into the chat that the link for this career hub is careerhub.unc.edu. So note that for us. After several months of work with our inaugural Assistant Vice Chancellor for Career Development and working group, which was a really hard-working working group, representative of many areas on campus, we've launched a career hub that, I can't speak again, excuse me. The career hub is relevant to the many pathways the Carolina community can pursue, whether in the academy, industry, or the public sector. The website is designed to foster career development, and it offers a centralized resource platform for career needs that's a tailored experience for our Carolina community. It received 1,000 views in its first 24 hours of its launch with great aspirations. So go check out the Career Hub. That's fantastic. And then lastly, we're really excited to celebrate the Innovate Carolina's Junction's first anniversary. Within the last year, Carolina's innovation hub and co-working space has quickly become a thriving center for creativity, collaboration, and growth. Currently, there are 106 active UNC IP-based startups, of which 88 are headquartered in North Carolina. In fiscal year 2024, with the support of Innovate Carolina's Office of Technology Commercialization at the Innovate Carolina Junction, 72 new U.S. provisional patent applications were filed, 47 patents were issued, and 8 IP-based startups were launched. The university's central team for innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic development work side by side to turn ideas and research discoveries into startup companies, products, and services. Our startup accelerators and programs also equip faculty, staff, and students and recent alumni, or any of those who have left Carolina in the past 5 years, with the entrepreneurial tools and resources they need to launch new ventures. This is an incredible program that we have at UNC, and I encourage you all to check out the Innovate Carolina Junction on Franklin Street. And word has it they're bringing in the B3 coffee stop very soon, and I know I'm particularly excited about having a little bit more coffee available to us on Franklin Street. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. And again, thank you for having me here, and welcome to October.
All right, questions from the group. We've got Megan first.
Hi, Christi. We met briefly in the beginning of September. I gave the Chancellor a quick preview of the issues that I think are the most prevalent in facilities based on what I've gathered from talking to the people I represent. And I've already brought them forward to the forum a few times and to HR, but I'm just going to continue to bring them forward as much as I can to the top and see what happens. First, the biggest issue I think we have right now is the inequitable distribution of pay raises around facilities, around facilities and grounds and housekeeping. And a lot of people have been asking about that and wondering why such a huge raise was given to a specific classification and no one else has been adjusted accordingly. Second, in that same vein, a lot of people are concerned that because of the low wages, we are unable to hire new people. A lot of people have left, and a lot of the facilities departments are unable to hire new people because of the wages being so low. So that's a big issue. And another big issue that was brought to my attention from facilities the other day was how hard it is to move competency levels. Like, if you start off as contributing, you shouldn't have 7 years of work experience, 8 years, 9 years of work experience, and still be at contributing. That makes absolutely no sense. Also, my 2 cents on that is that supervisors should be able to request that and not have as much pushback because they're the ones that work directly with the employees, and they're the ones that have like the most knowledge of how the employees have improved and what they do at work and all of that. So I don't understand why, if they make that recommendation, fill out the paperwork, then they get pushback from HR saying, well, you know, we know the employee better.
Right.
And then lastly, this has less to do with facilities and more to do with grounds, but I wanted to bring up that there's been a plan in the works for about 5 years now to demolish the grounds building that's on campus across from bioinformatics. And they still haven't found a location to put grounds when they demolish that building. And it was brought to my attention 2 days ago that they plan on moving grounds to the tents that they use to store graduation supplies, which don't have, as of right now, they don't have working heat or AC. They don't have bathrooms, no electricity. Well, maybe a little bit of electricity. And there's mold everywhere. I just went out there and looked at it. So I just wanted to bring that to somebody's attention and see if we could fix that before they demolish the building, hopefully.
Absolutely. And so I don't have a lot of answers for those questions. You asked very specific things that some of our other colleagues can answer. And I encourage when Becky Mangini comes on, she can answer some of the pieces potentially about the raises. I took notes on all of those, Megan, and I'm really grateful that you raised those questions. And let me see if I can get some answers to you. I'm not aware of the demolition of the grounds building right now, so I'm hoping that that's not nigh. And so I think we have some time to figure out where a good place for grounds would be. And I will follow up and get back to you. And it's good to see you here again. So thank you for raising those questions.
All right, Jay, you're up next, if you want to unmute. We can't hear you for some reason. Hang on a second. Yeah, I think it's got to be your mic because we can hear Christi. So
that'll work now.
There you are.
Sorry. The travails of switching from home to the office. Could you give us an update on where the lawsuit that affects students using their mobile IDs
Yes.
rests? I know it's been back and forth. And connected to that, if a student has a mobile ID, are they? I for some reason thought that if you chose that option, you can't have a physical ID.
I can clarify this. Thank you for raising this important question. First of note, we're not a part of this lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that's happening around us, right? So it's something that we're adapting to. And students and employees, so this is for y'all too, can go into the One Card office in the student union and student stores and ask for a physical One Card for voting, and you won't be charged for it. We're trying to switch over to entirely mobile ID just for digital purposes and just to be up, living in the future, if you will. But you can request a physical One Card for voting purposes for free.
Thank you. I just want to, I guess, push back a shade. I know it's external. We're not the people that brought the lawsuit or the institution, but we're the ones most affected. And it seems like as a university that wants to advocate for its students, that we should have more of I would love to know that we're taking a more active role in making sure that our students aren't disenfranchised.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were so clear to find a reason or a way, rather, to print these One Cards for free to make sure that that was accessible. But thank you. I'll note that as well. Allison, thank you for popping that up in the chat.
Keith?
Hey, Christi.
Hey.
Not even a question, just a comment. As someone who lives in Western North Carolina, in Rutherford County, who is still to this day without power, and I left my 70-year-old parents to come to homecoming, which they insisted. They were like, no, go, we're fine. But I just want to say thank you to the university and to any individual who has done anything, who is willing to do anything, who has even said, I want to do something, but I'm not in a position to do something. to help those in Western North Carolina. I live in the same county as Chimney Rock, where Chimney Rock and Lake Lure used to be, is how I'm putting it, because the entire towns have been just demolished. So I just want to say, I don't know if anyone else has said thank you to anyone who has done anything, but I know the people of Western North Carolina are truly appreciative, because I am, and I didn't even suffer any loss. I just lost power, but I know others whose houses, cars, and family are just gone. So we do appreciate it. Thank you.
And Keith, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's been tragic. What's been happening in Western North Carolina is unbelievable. And I am grateful that we're part of an institution that can help, but it's terrible and tragic.
Other questions for Christi? Ellie?
Excuse me. With the anniversary of the Hamas attacks approaching on Monday, October 7th, I'm just curious what the university's plans are around security, staff, faculty, student safety. I've had conversations within my office with my staff. I'm located directly on Polk Place, so we're aware of all of what happened last semester. So I'm just curious if you can give us an update on messaging that's planned, or security that's happening, and also messaging around free speech, et cetera.
Absolutely. So there are a number of things I could speak to in this area. One is the immediate safety issue. So we have been doing a lot of work to focus and prepare for next week. So there are just lots of different things that we could have on our radars that we want to be ready for. You will see an increased security presence on campus next week, law enforcement officers, and also some of our security folks that you've seen at football games in the jackets. Our Rhino teams will be around, making sure that their eyes and ears on the ground. So you'll see an increased presence there. We have talked a lot about building safety. And so depending on what we need to do in areas, we will take action to close buildings as needed, or whatever might need to happen, given the events of whatever day we're looking at. So we have done a lot of planning with our emergency management team. So this is the thing that I think has been so useful, is to put the football in the team of the experts who do emergency planning on the regular, if you will. And so Daryl Jeter and his team has been working closely with Chief James to figure out what might need to happen next week to keep our community safe. So there's a lot of work happening there, but the big thing to note is you'll see an increased presence. In terms of messaging, 3 or 4 different messages are either in the wild already or about to be released. And I know Cameron's listening and can chime in on the chat. We have a message from the provost that has gone out asking for grace and forgiveness a little bit next week for students for whatever reason, impact of the storm, religious high holidays, whatever it might be. People who choose not to go to class, we've asked for some forgiveness and grace with attendance next week. We have had several messages go out from student affairs with both resources and reminders about conduct policies. We have, I believe, put a story in the well this past week around expectations and what our campus is expecting. And we also are working to update the website about some of the actions we've taken heretofore to make sure our campus is safe. So we're trying to put out a lot of messaging. We also, as you can imagine, are always trying to balance not being the sort of the university that's only putting out finger wagging messages, but we're also trying to make sure this is an inspirational time where people can have dialogue and debate and robust conversations. But safety and security, of course, is always at the forefront of our minds. And so that's really what we've been looking at.
Just a really quick follow-up, as around especially buildings. So I was located in a different building, although still on Polk Place in April. That was a very confusing time, again, this past month when students walked through buildings. So I would just encourage, however you can, especially to get down to the level of people like myself, who is a department manager in a building with a lone department, who is responsible, like, in the immediate time to deal with that. We don't get that messaging, so if that can at all be stressed, especially to basically the college, that would be wonderful.
I will absolutely do that. I've already been in conversations with Jim White about this a little bit, and Daryl Jeter will be following up about building safety. I'll make that point today.
Sarah?
Kind of a follow-up connected question. I hear you that there are several messages around security and conduct. Is there a plan to acknowledge, in the same way we did with the Western North Carolina tragedy, the tragedy in Lebanon that is unfolding. We have a lot of Lebanese people. North Carolina is like the top 3 states in the United States with a huge Lebanese population. Is there a plan to even acknowledge that tragedy?
At this point, we've really focused on our campus safety efforts, so I don't think a message like that is prepared. But I'll note that too.
Megan.
Hey again, I just wanted to also add, when I spoke to the Chancellor earlier in September, I mentioned that I think one of the root causes of all the issues that are occurring in facilities, grounds, housekeeping, the lowest paid workers, I think a lot of the issues is related to the fact that there's not enough communication, not clear communication from the top down or the bottom up. It kind of just gets stuck there in the middle, and it doesn't really go either way. So I think transparency and communication should be a top priority, and I would advise you, the Chancellor, Wendy, to reach out to the people at the bottom to figure out what's actually going on, to engage with people and understand the issues instead of, getting fed misinformation.
I'm sorry, do you have an example of what you're talking about, just so I get cleared and dialed in on what you're selling me?
Just all of the issues that I mentioned previously.
Okay.
It seems like I want to be, maybe I'm being naive, but I want to be hopeful that the reason they haven't been resolved, because they've been ongoing for longer than I've been here for 7 years, that the reason they haven't been resolved is because the top is just not hearing about them, not because nobody cares. So that's what I'm hopeful about.
Right.
And I want to make sure that the top is aware, and I feel like the best way to do that is for them to communicate directly with the bottom.
Understood.
At the moment,
Thank you.
Anyway. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for serving. That's one of the reasons we want you to be on the Chancellor's Advisory Committee. This is really helpful information. So I appreciate that.
Sarah?
Kind of disconnect. Sorry, I missed the first bit, so we've maybe already covered this, but wanted to ask about the mental health resources. I know that the Chancellor frequently states that we are committed to maintaining or improving or expanding. And I recently found out that one of our 17-year-long programs, the Peers for Progress, is being eliminated this year. Last month was its last month. It was funded federally, and 3 years ago, the state knew, or the system knew, that they needed to find a plan if they wanted to continue funding it, and that was not done. I'm curious how that plays into this larger mental health supportive community type claim. So Peers for Progress, just to clarify, they started the Listener program, which is a student peer-to-peer support chat group. The Peers for Progress has created a core initiative, which is a meeting across all of the schools, who involves Jessica Pyjas and key players in the mental health arenas for each school, talking about sharing resources, needs of individuals. It has been a really impactful mini grant funding arm as well. They gave out $32,000 last year and $28,000 the year before. All of those programs are, as of October 1st, are done. And I'm curious why that decision was made by the school and kind of what the plan is to replace or do similar initiatives.
So I didn't know that this was a program that had wrapped up. So let me figure that out, because it's an important part of our structure. So what I'm really hoping my answer will be is that we've figured out another way to do this work. Because I know Student Affairs specifically has really grown our mental health infrastructure over the past 3 or 4 years, especially, and now offer 24-hour service, and they do have a peer mentoring network. So I'm going to have to get back to you on that, because I do believe we still have a lot of work in the space, including some support for mental health first aid. So I haven't heard of a diminishment in that capacity, but rather an expansion. So in terms of peer-to-peer specifically and the federal funding, I'll have to get back to you with that. Because again, I mean, I'm sort of flustered because we have so much work happening in that space that I haven't heard of it shrinking at all.
Yeah, thank you. It's a program that was started through Gillings, if that helps you in your search for what's going on. Thanks.
What I'm hoping is that it's been centralized in some other capacity. So, okay, more soon.
All right, any final questions for Christi before we move to the next portion of the agenda? Jacob.
Could I ask one more?
Oh, sorry. Jacob first, then Jay.
Yeah, it's color-coded. So I just kind of wanted to talk about, one, I do want to echo Megan's comments about faculty facilities specifically often on, and to kind of tie it in with some of the other issues about communication, is that frequently, not only is communication not particularly clear to some of our lowest earning workers, but also this aggressive reliance on email listservs is really problematic. If your job is to be outside moving stuff all day, you don't hear about it in time. The only thing that really does get distributed quickly is emergency stuff through North Carolina, and that has been unreliable in the past. Not to complain about emergency management planning. I think they're doing the best with what they have. But again, like the only way we can deal with out of work things is through severe weather conditions, which are not appropriate to all emergencies on campus. And to also tie in that it's not just the low end of facilities. There was the Chancellor made a comment several meetings back about the fact that we just kind of have to learn to live with deferred maintenance budgets. The problem is those just grow, and they're going to leave dissatisfied folks who are constantly having to patch a wall that's falling apart. And there's also the psychological side of it. It really feels like you are straight up saying, this doesn't matter. And I don't know if y'all are aware that sometimes you're making a budget decision as an aggressive emotional response as well.
I understand that. And I don't think we're trying to live with deferred maintenance. I'm trying to think about what that comment was that he might have said. This is a chancellor who's very focused on improving facilities. And so I think that we're working very hard with the state budget to try to make sure we have money set aside. And actually, Nate can come and talk about that, because I know that there is a tremendous opportunity in front of us to make sure that our buildings are safe, secure, and that they're creating healthy workspaces for all of us. So by no means is anybody trying to blow that important topic off. So I apologize if it came across like that at some point. And I assure you, this is something that's in the forefront of our minds.
And Jay.
Oh, just one last thing. It's kind of mental health, student mental health resources. Obviously, next month is going to be a pivotal time for a lot of folks. Is there some thought given to how the university might serve students who may have issues with how the election turns out? And I'm not trying to be political, but as a student, somebody that's a student-facing staffer, I tend to feel like that there could be a lot of confusion.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's part of our view, if you will, of all the different kind of work that we're trying to do now to prepare campus, both in terms of its mental health, the mental health services that we have. So Sarah's question is all the more timely, to make sure that we have programs that support dialogue and debate and sort of what the students might be going through in terms of whatever they think about the election before and after, and to make sure we really fill the role of an academic institution in that space and create the room to learn and grow. So all of this rolls back up into the same things we were talking about earlier, also in terms of safety and security. If there are protests or demonstrations, no matter what happens in November, we want to be ready. So I think about this work a lot, sort of in terms of like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? We're talking about physical and psychological safety a lot, to try to make sure we can keep the campus healthy and whole. And then we're also trying to create opportunities for that self-actualization, that personal development for all of us, so we can learn and grow from each other, which I know sounds like a pat answer in some ways, but really is true. We're looking at all ends of the continuum here. And our view is way past these weeks in October, where we know we expect some activity, if you will, but well into November and beyond. This election may also not be wrapped up in November. So there's a lot on our minds, and I encourage all of us to keep having a dialogue, and we can talk about that more here at future meetings also, because this isn't something that is, I think, going to be easily wrapped up no matter what, election or not. We just have a lot of sort of rifts in society that we need to be helping our students, staff, and faculty manage through.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you as always, Christi, for joining us and for these really helpful updates, and really for just being here as an ear listening to staff concerns. So with that, we're going to turn to the next section of our agenda, which is a special presentation from the Be a Maker folks here on campus. We've got Director Kenny Langley here in person to deliver a presentation about the amazing things Beam does. So we're excited about that, and then we'll move into HR updates. So come on forward, Kenny.
How are you? Okay, thank you. Okay. Great. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, or if it's not your Friday, happy Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever day it is for you. I spoke with someone on grounds crew on the way in, and I said, happy Friday. They said, well, Wednesday to me. But I said, okay, well, happy Wednesday. Thanks very much for having me this morning to discuss Beam. I'm excited to speak to you all. How many of you in the room have heard of the Be a Maker spaces on campus? Most of you. Okay, great. How many of you have visited a Beam makerspace? Most of you. Excellent. Fantastic. So I wanted to kind of start the session this morning by asking you if you're a hobbyist, crafter, tinkerer, maker, and is there some type of hobby that you really kind of do in your spare time that brings you joy and happiness? I see nods. What's yours?
I have a cricket machine.
A cricket machine.
A lot of custom stuff.
Yes. Okay, and where did you get that passion? Where did that come from?
I've just always been a crafter.
Okay.
Yeah, I like projects and being creative and crafting.
So when you were young, was there anything that kind of inspired you and pushed you that direction? Oh, sorry, yeah, so everybody can hear.
Sorry, the people can't hear me. I don't know. Honestly, just art class in school. Like I've always loved building and making things and replicating things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just always been me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing. So a cricut machine is spelled C-R-I-C-U-T, so Cricut. It's a craft cutter, so you can cut vinyl, felt, all kinds of stuff, do craft books, you can make custom stickers, really cool machine. We have a few of these at Beam, along with silhouettes and then larger Roland vinyl cutters, where you can make big stickers. You can use heat press vinyl and make t-shirts. So we have heat presses like you used to see at the mall where they're kind of custom making t-shirts. If you get different colors, you'll use multiple layers and you can make your own version of whatever team you pull for, whatever family reunion you have coming up, you can make your own stuff. So it's pretty fantastic. I wanted to ask anyone else in the room that's really into hobby, craft, tinkering, making stuff? Yes? Fantastic. So we see a large number of people that come into the makerspaces for live action role play, LARP, and for cosplay. So they make all types of costumes, go to conferences, and then Halloween's coming up, so we're going to see a ton of really interesting things coming in. So I encourage y'all, everybody online and in the room, to continue to come into Beam. We're trying to expand hours. We're redoing our Haynes makerspace and adding some stuff there that I think will be pretty exciting. So this is our vision and mission at Beam. These kind of continue to endure. They were put together in 2015, 2016 with a committee on campus. And these have been largely successful in starting the Haynes makerspace. So these are pictures of what it did look like. I don't have pictures of what it is going to look like because it's being refurbished right now. But I've been over there doing some painting and sanding and chipping in a little bit, and we're very excited about what's going to be added there. Even though it's a small footprint, we're trying to pack a lot in, just like we do in our other maker spaces. We don't have a ton of square footage, but we try to offer as much as possible in those small spaces. Murray Hall opened in 2016. We've added a laser cutter there. We are updating our 3D printer fleet. We're adding different types of filament. So we predominantly print with PETG, which is like Coke bottle plastic, but it's the end of the recycling kind of pathway. We have alpha filament, which is biodegradable, flexible filaments, and we now have the opportunity to put down it's like a cloth mesh on the 3D printer bed. You can print onto the grid, peel that off, and it's flexible. So you can put it on clothing or on hats, or we're even seeing some research applications for that as well. Carmichael in the dorm, a lot of people think that's just for residents. Not true. Anybody can come into the Carmichael Residence Hall during those open hours and use that. All of our 3D printers now are on a cloud-based control system. So if you have something you want to print, you know how to draft it and change it, you can take control of one of the 3D printers online, send a print to the 3D printer, and then you swing by the makerspace to pick up the print. So quite a bit more convenient than the former system we had. You all know Carrington is being in the process, part of it's being demolished. There will be a small makerspace there. We've worked with nursing to help them figure out what exactly fits best in their context. We're also talking to prosthetics and orthotics, which is going to start an official program at UNC, which is very exciting. And then we already have one set up at the UNC Hillsborough Hospital. So it was just up there yesterday, and that program is expanding. So I have pictures of that here in a second. So this is our Carmichael Residence Hall makerspace. We've added another enclosure over there, and we will eventually be adding a laser cutter, which is a big deal because that's one of the most highly popular pieces we have. This is our training web, more or less. So you'll start in the middle at Beam 101, and then you kind of decide where you leap off into other areas. So the Beam 101 is our intro training. I'll show you the parts of it here in a second. A lot of this is moved to Canvas. So if you need a refresher on any of this stuff, you think, oh gosh, it's been a few years since I've been to Beam, I want to re-engage and try this embroidery machine they have, then you can hop online, brush up, take another training if you want, and then come in and give that another go. If you like woodwork, we have the Shaper Origin, which is a handheld CNC router. You put a design in it, you set it down on the substrate you want to route or cut, you put a virtual image on the substrate, and then it tells you where to drive the router, and it compensates for your human movement. It is fantastic. We've had people come into Beam not interested in woodwork, no history in woodwork, but saw this thing and immediately beelined for it, and they can't get enough of it. In addition, we have ShopBot CNCs. So that's the kind of traditional one where you put the substrate, the wood or foam or whatever it is, and a drill bit carves out a ram's head or whatever it is you're looking to make. And I mentioned, industrial embroidery, but we've added desktop embroidery, which is a lot simpler. So you can monogram things, you can load different colors. Pretty awesome technology. All three spaces have that now. And then our vinyl cutters and lots of other tools. So there's tons of stuff you can come in and try. To remind you, if you haven't engaged at Beam, take the Beam 101 training. You do a waiver release, you do an online training, and then you come in person so you can put your hands on some tools, get familiar with the makerspace, and hopefully kind of push back some of that intimidation factor. So you feel good about coming in, you meet some staff, you see things, you understand that safety is everybody's responsibility in the spaces, and then you kick off a great project. If you know you want to use a technology but you don't have a project in mind, we can help. Lots of cool stuff and ideas for you. Once you do Beam 101, you get access to all this stuff. So there's tons of things you can make. We've got button makers mounted in each space. You can make 10 buttons for free. Then you want to keep going, you just buy a little kit, make more. Power tools, hand tools, measuring, acrylic benders, lots of kind of unique tools. All the tools are fantastic, but what really makes Beam phenomenal are its people. The community that comes together, that uses spaces. In the middle is Josh Leonard. Unfortunately, Josh moved away a little while ago, but he was over at financial aid office. Custom made all kinds of games that he would then take and prototype, really guinea pig on his poor family at gatherings. He would say, try this game, and he'd have all kinds of really cool ideas. So he was always in the space making things and making gifts. So just a few pictures here of frequent users. Research has been a part of Beam. This is Marcus Reese and his flow reactor. So let me see if this video is going to run. And it looks like it's not. I apologize. So this is, Marcus was PhD in chemistry. This is a reactor that he built. A large part of it was made at Beam. So the rack here at the bottom that's in white, 3D printed, motors, programming, all the stuff that was done at Beam ended up in his research. So we've got all kinds of things going on. You might come into Beam, you start working on a project, you see the orange arrow, maybe that's a grad student or maybe it's you, and then all of a sudden 20 people come in around you and start making birdhouses. And then they leave and you keep making, and then another group comes in and solder. So it's really interesting. Inevitably, you strike up a conversation with someone next to you and they show you or teach you something you didn't know, and you all get a little better. And that's what we love about the spaces. This is our Maker Fest, which happens at the end of each semester. This year we'll be on LDOC at Rams Head Rec Center. We'd love to see you there, 4 to 6 p.m. People that make things and want to show them off are invited to come show them at Beam. Sometimes it's artisan wood turners who are also oncologists in their day job, but aren't there to talk about that. They're there to talk about their love for turning wood. This is the rehab makerspace at UNC Hillsborough Hospital. So that one is in the progress of kind of building synergy with BME, prosthetics and orthotics, and a number of other groups. So again, small but pretty powerful. And back to our community, want to encourage you to be a part of it and to come in and use the Beam spaces. If you have a group in your office that wants to come in to do a training with us, just you, let us know. So we kind of cap our Beam 101 trainings at 12. If you can bring more than 6, we're glad to set up a training just for your office. So we'll do that anytime, and then we can have conversations about what you want to jump into next. Any questions about the Beam spaces or what we offer, what we can do for you?
So we've got a couple questions in the chat. So first, Annetta had a few questions around how the makerspaces are funded. Is it a curricular effort, simply for leisure or recreation? Or like if it's for research, is it funded by research funds? And then just kind of around the budget, around the installations and retrofitting of spaces.
Yes, great. That's a great question. So the initial setup of Beam was provided by a bolus of funding that came in 2015, 2016. That was used to set up the original spaces, buy some equipment. Let's see, the dean at that point, I believe, was Kevin Guskowitz, who then became Chancellor. And there was some understanding that innovative Tier 1 research universities needed some of these innovation spaces. So it was kind of provided in that. I'm not clear exactly where those funds came from to set that up. Since then, there was actually a referendum, a student referendum in 2019 that was put out to students and passed. It was on the agenda for the Board of Governors, and then the pandemic hit a week before they were due to get to it. So the university has been generous in continuing to provide annual funding for Beam to operate. We also put together grant proposals. We have grant funds flowing through. We are working to generate other revenue streams. One of them is actually with Innovate Carolina to allow Launch Chapel Hill and Junction members access to the makerspaces with a fee-based program. So we're constantly working to generate some revenue, but also keep things free for people who want to try 3D printing, for instance.
You just led into my next question in the chat is, do you pay to use these spaces, pay per project?
So everything is provided free up front, though there are limits on like premium materials. We don't give away plywood or acrylic. You have to secure your own. We have a vending machine where you can buy a tile of those things. So if you want to make coasters, or if you want to make your own t-shirts with heat press vinyl, you can buy a tile of heat press vinyl. But we have 5 primary colors that are available in vinyl, so you can make stickers. That's provided for free. Again, you can make 10 buttons. We provide cardboard, PETG, that are laser cutter compatible. So Eastman Chemical Corporation provides us with a donation every year that allows us to keep 3D printing free for now. As it continues to grow in popularity, we're trying to lower the cost of printing. Eventually, if it becomes so popular we can't cover the costs of just filament from Eastman's contribution, then we'll have to go to a charge base, but we're talking about a few cents per gram, so a print would be $1 or $2. We're trying to hold the costs down as much as possible. So yes, most everything is free, including our student staff who help support people in making things. They won't make stuff for you, but they'll watch you struggle and then step in to help when you think you really need it.
I feel attacked. Any other questions? Ellie.
I was hoping, can you just clarify for whom this is free?
Yeah, it's for everybody that has an active PID at UNC. So at this point, it's faculty, staff, employees, administrators, anybody. So if you have an active 1 card, you can come in to use the beam spaces. The exception is going to be Junction members, but they also have PIDs, Launch, Chapel Hill as well. So we're starting with them, and then we have plans to expand more, but we're piloting these programs now.
Any questions online? Jacob.
Yeah, what tool do you not have that y'all desperately want?
Ooh. That's a really good question. I don't know that it's so. We'd love to have a saw stop, which is a table saw that stops immediately when anything flesh-like touches it. Our problem is floor space, so we just don't have the square footage to support that. I would say it's not necessarily specific tools, it's the kind of tool. So if we have a chop saw, like a sliding miter saw, we'd love to have Festool. So it's really just kind of brands, things that we know are going to last a long time or reduce dust, particulate in the air. We're very fortunate in that regard. We've got some really terrific tools that have come from a number of different sources, private donations included. I'd have to get back to you on that. We've done well on covering those. I'm sure I talk to staff all the time. Right now we're trying to decide how we're going to pivot on 3D printers because this new technology has come out with a company called Bamboo, B-A-M-B-U, that have made a 3D printer that auto-loads and has a climate-controlled, humidity-controlled chamber and does all this stuff for a fraction of the price of what we're used to paying, but it comes from another continent, and there are concerns about security, digital security, and IP flowing through them. So we're having some spirited conversations right now about how we're going to figure that out.
Another couple questions in the chat. Can PID holders bring in guests for a training session? And do these spaces have medical emergency equipment kits?
Okay, great questions. So guests, yes, if they have an active PID. So yeah, right now we're not equipped. We can do tours though. So if you want to come through and show family, friends, we can make those arrangements. We have a tour form on our website, so you can set that up. And then yes, the spaces are outfitted with stop the bleed kits, first aid kits, fire extinguishers, and other things. We do some training with our staff, but we have always been encouraged by the university to call 911, and we have steps in place to address immediate major injuries. Minor injuries, we have a form that we input, and then the person that sustained the injury self-treats with our first aid kit, and then we can transport them to campus health or the hospital if needed. But we rely on emergency services for anything serious. But yeah, we've got really all of that in place.
Potentially another revenue stream for guests to come in.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's for guests to come in and pay is something we've talked about for a long time. It's not part of our mission, so it would be extra. We're first looking at alumni, professors emeritus. That would be the pilot program for people that aren't active on campus, don't have active PIDs. There are a few bridges to cross to get all that figured out. So we're starting with the junction and launch. Great questions and good points.
Any final questions for him?
I did put one more in the chat, sorry, and I'm happy to say it out loud. This is kind of long, sorry, Katie. This sounds amazing, and I really loved seeing the pictures of all of the people in the space, and that brings up, for me at least, thoughts about the air ventilation and airborne illnesses. I heard you talk about ventilation filtering for particulates. Is there any technology in those spaces that also filters, like they have UV light or anything else that would deal with or make it a little bit safer to be unmasked in your maker spaces?
So all of the space, that's a great question. All of the spaces have increased flow of ventilation through the spaces because they have, just by the way they're designed, there's a higher turnover of air. So it's ventilated to the outside. In Haynes, fresh air comes into that space, which is kind of a unique feature. It's not recirculated, it's fresh air that is pumped into the Haynes maker space. All of them do turn over faster, so especially 3D printer areas. There are not UV lights or upgraded air filters from the perspective of airborne illness, but the spaces, if you're in Murray, you see a bunch of tubes hanging down. Those are all connected to an active ventilation system for soldering, and they are all drawing air out of the space. You can definitely hear the space dragging air out of the space when you're in there. You can hear all the active ventilation. So we don't have anything specifically to address that, but we also welcome users to wear masks if they don't feel comfortable, and that's been a long-standing thing for Beam.
We had a shout out in the chat that said her daughter's elementary school did a field trip last year, and they had a great time. The student tour guides were awesome. So, great shout out there.
Awesome.
And then how are you promoting this opportunity to all of campus, all students?
We try our best every year to get word out, and inevitably we run into a junior or senior who says, I wish I'd have known about you 2 years ago. And we do pack outs where we send tents out. We do events all over campus. We hand out stickers. We have a golf cart that drives around and honks at everybody. So short from shouting it from the rooftops, we've done everything our budget allows us to do to engage on those levels. There's always someone that comes in that says they'd never heard of us. We're about to do one at the Loudermilk Center for Academic Excellence with athletes, with all the athletics programs. We're Research Week. We're fully involved in everything that happens across campus. We're pretty well represented. That I think that answers the question, but we could always do more.
Don't feel bad. The forum has the same problem.
It's a big campus.
So one, love Beam. Thank you for letting me film a part of my Give UNC video in there last year.
Yes.
It was amazing. And the second thing is, Beam is not new. If you have not heard about it, it's because you're not listening.
If you've been around for a little while, you've probably heard of Beam. Even if you've heard of it, you've heard of the things that happen there, we'd love to talk to you. Come find one of our full-time staff members, talk to any of our student staff. They'd love to talk to you about projects. If you have something in mind, you want to make a little library, and you're looking for different types of materials or trying to figure things out, we'd love to have those conversations with you.
It's a great idea in the chat around recommending it be included in freshman new transfer materials and speaking at campus visits and orientation.
Orientations we have done, there are a lot of them. So staffing those is a thing. Convincing our staff to wake up at 8 and be at events all through the summer is a thing. So we're working on all of those. Yes, thank you, though.
All right, any final questions for Kenny? Go ahead, Ellen.
I just think you have the best job, and I'm very jealous.
I do have a pretty cool job. Everyone that works at Beam, we're a terrific team. It's really positive. We work to build up our student staff, help them in a kind of paraprofessional situation. Some of them, this is the first job they've ever had. So we have to teach people how to sweep or use a dust mop, and then how to calibrate a 3D printer. So it is, there are people that come from single-family households that lived in an apartment or were couch kids and just didn't get the opportunity to do those sorts of things, and come to Carolina and were able to kind of build from the ground up. Nobody is embarrassed about that. We will turn around and scrub baseboards, including me, with a toothbrush, and then greet the chancellor or people from facilities for a training or whatever we can do. We're happy to do that. We hire service-minded people and growth mindset folks. So, yeah. Thank you.
So much. We appreciate it. Okay, folks, we're going to move to our next section of our agenda, which are our trustee HR updates. I'm going to turn it over to Becky and her team and let y'all take it away.
Thank you so much. Becky had to jump to another meeting. Unfortunately, she was here briefly. I'm going to jump in. I know I have Jessica and Joe here, and Joe's going to be providing an open enrollment update, so I want to leave time for them. A couple of quick announcements of some things that are coming up. We have the 25 plus service appreciation breakfast, which is happening October 9th from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. in the Carolina Club. We've already sent out, of course, notices and gotten RSVPs back to that. So it's always a great event. It's one of my favorite of the year. It's also time for Employee Appreciation Day. That's coming up on October 18th from 10 a.m. to 2. Always a big and fun day. As you know, we'll have our expo featuring various departments and local businesses showcasing their goods and services. This year's lunch will be a taco bar, which I personally am very excited about. There's also going to be a new vendor for caricature renderings who can complete them in under a minute, which is going to be cool to watch. And Pelicans will be back this year, again, due to popular demand. Of course, we'll have our inflatables as well. So we do encourage you to submit brief messages of appreciation for your Carolina colleagues with cheers to peers. The employee gift this year is going to be a canvas tote bag. And we want to also just give a shout out to Victoria Fleming, the Associate Director of HR in the Eshelman School of Pharmacy, who won the t-shirt design contest. So that was pretty exciting as well. Also coming up on October 30th, we have the Carolina Tar Heel Tribute from noon to 2. A wonderful event. It's an annual event that honors contributions of our staff, faculty, and students who have served or are currently serving in the military. The event's going to feature networking opportunities, a POW-MIA tribute, lunch. We also have a keynote address from Secretary Greer Martin of the North Carolina Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, which we're very excited that we were able to get Secretary Martin to join us for that. We have extended invitations to those who have identified themselves as veterans in Carolina. and the RSVP deadline is October 18th. We've also will be sending out a flyer to HR officers across the campus that they can post within their areas to help publicize the event. Beyond the announcements, we did send out a memo yesterday to HR officers with information to distribute to their employees about those employees who may be working in permanent work locations in the western part of the state and how Condition 3 is applying for them. In addition to that, information about the community service leave policy. There has been a provision that's been approved by the Office of State Human Resources to provide 2 additional days of community service leave due to the impacts of the storm. We do know that the Office of State Human Resources is meeting with the governor's office today. I'm anticipating that they're going to be recommending additional flexibilities around community service leave and other leave types. So we're anxiously awaiting that information so that we can get it out to our campus community as soon as possible. I know many of you have probably friends, loved ones who are in the western part of the state have been impacted and are motivated and wanting to help them through this very, very difficult time. And those of you who just want to help. And so hopefully we'll have some additional flexibility around community service leave that we can communicate out that folks can use as a way to volunteer, get out there, help the community, help our neighbors to the west. I will say, and some of you probably experienced this as well, myself and my team, we actually were at a North Carolina Society for Human Resources conference in Cherokee from Wednesday through Friday of last week. And some of us experienced a microcosm, just a small microcosm of what permanent residents are experiencing now. Just power outages, no ability to contact anyone due to no cell service. One gas station operating in the entire city of Asheville. So there were some really desperate times there, and it really does change your perspective. And I have to say, for those of you who've experienced it, you can probably attest to this too. When this happens in other parts of the country, you see it on TV, it just does not really articulate the picture of what is actually happening on the ground until you see it with your own eyes. And having witnessed, and Joe was there with us, he may want to share some of his experience, but seeing some of the devastation and the flooding and how widespread it was, there's just such a desperate need for our neighbors to the west. And so for those of you who can and are able, please, I would encourage you to do what you can to help out, whatever that may be. And we'll keep you posted on any additional flexibility around community service leave and other leave types that we can share. So I realize I ran through that very quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions before I hand it over to Joe and to Jessica. I know Joe's got some important updates around open enrollment, so I wanted to make sure I left time for him.
Linc, I know you mentioned several things about community service leave and flexibility. Do you want to talk a little bit about the community service leave being opened up for poll workers?
Yes, and actually Joe might have more information about that. I was so focused on more of the storm disaster relief piece, I didn't pull that information up. Joe, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. Hey, everyone. Joe Williams with Benefits, Leave Administration, and Total Wellbeing, and great to be here with you today. So as the question was talking about working as a poll worker. So the State Office of Human Resources has actually kind of opened up community service leave that you can actually use it, of course, to work in a poll. Now, most counties, though, if you're working at some of the polls for the election coming up, there's a requirement to pay. And in the past, you could not be on a community service leave, kind of getting the paid leave and also getting paid, to work at the poll. So again, as long as it's a nonpartisan, so you're not out there holding somebody's sign up or anything like that, you're working in the election process itself. You can actually, with management approval, do a community service leave and use up to that 24 hours for that. And then you can also be paid by the county, so the County Board of Elections. So they did make kind of that addition to that kind of special waiver, just because a lot of counties are struggling right now to fill those poll worker positions.
Other questions for Linc? Megan?
Hi, Linc. I know you've heard this several times before, and I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but as I mentioned, I'm going to use every opportunity and use this platform to say the same things over and over again if I have to increase the odds of change. But I wanted to bring up the issue of inequitable pay distribution, inequitable raise distribution in facilities. And I know that last time I spoke about it, Becky Mangini said that the numbers on your end don't reflect that. And I've been walking and talking to all of the people that I represent in the division, skilled craft workers, and I've heard different from them. Like, they don't see eye to eye on that issue. There's a lot of different statistics going around, I think. And I think on the bottom we see firsthand how it affects the employees, especially the supervisors. They get questions all the time. And HR has not, since December 2022, has not been able to sufficiently answer these questions.
So what exactly is the question? I guess I would ask. I understand the concern that's being raised, and we're happy to continue to work with the HR teams in the facilities areas on any salary improvement efforts that they would like to make. So if there's a more specific question than us working with them to try and enact any kind of salary improvement that they may need to do and want to do, I mean, I'm happy to follow up and follow up on that. But for you to say that we haven't adequately answered questions since 2022, I'm not exactly sure what your question is that hasn't been answered, other than raising, of course, the concern, which is certainly a legitimate one.
I assumed you had already heard about, because like I said, I've been talking to everyone in HR for a while. But the issues began when raises were implemented by the state because of the Labor Market Reserve Fund. And they were given to a specific classification and even more specific pay grades within that classification. And I guess it seemed like the university kind of glazed over the fact that a lot of people did get significant raises and the rest of us did not. So I think a lot of people assumed that we were going to be given equitable distribution of raises accordingly, like the same amount, the same percentage that housekeeping or the building environmental service technicians classification received. And 2 years later, that still hasn't happened for a lot of people. So we're still wondering when and if HR or UNC is going to make sure everybody has, the same equitable base pay based on all those raises.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. And the issue at that time is I think this body mostly, except for maybe some new delegates who probably joined this year, understood that we did have a very outdated salary range structure. And that was a big barrier in being able to provide increases to a wider variety of classifications, and especially in the facility services area. Those ranges have since been updated, actually a few months ago. So again, I'm happy to follow up with the folks in facilities to see if they have any plans for salary improvement. To be clear, we don't initiate salary increases for departments on their behalf. They are ones who have to take a look at their budgets and actually take the actions to be able to initiate those increases. So what I'm happy to do is take that as a to-do to follow up with leadership over the facilities area and just see if they have any plans, and if they have any plans, if they do have plans, then also to be able to communicate those out.
Can you specify when you say leadership, are you talking about the supervisors of each department or facilities?
Yeah, we would start probably with Wendy Halsey in particular. Obviously, she's the chief decision maker over the facilities areas. We would work directly with Bill Stockard, who's the director of HR in the finance and operations areas. His team, who then also interfaces with folks like Darius and also the leadership throughout the facilities areas. So it would start, I think, with Wendy and then cascade down.
Lots of follow-up. As a result of that issue, it came to a lot of people's attention that we tried to reclassify people throughout facilities to make those adjustments, and it became obvious to people that the reclassification of contribution levels and jobs was extremely difficult for supervisors to accomplish. Some have been trying for years now and still haven't been able to reclassify their people in order to, try to get them to where they need to be. And it seems like there's a lot of pushback when it comes to the paperwork with HR, just saying, pushing back against the supervisor, saying all of your suggestions, sorry, I don't know. But it seems like HR just pushes back against the supervisors as much as possible when trying to make these new classifications.
Yeah, and that's a different issue as well. When we're looking at reclassification requests, we do have to analyze the duties and the functions and the responsibilities that are in the job description. The reality of it is there are some jobs that do top out. We can't continue to reclassify people in perpetuity for certain types of roles. And we try to work with departments to provide options around, here's what you may want to consider in terms of expanding the scope, the complexity of the job that might actually get it to over the line to be able to reclassify either the competency level of the position or the overall title itself. So we're not simply pushing back just to push back. If we really are trying to analyze the jobs and try and determine if those classifications, if the job descriptions do meet sort of the threshold for being reclassified into another area.
James?
Hey, Linc, James Stamey here. To follow up with what you just said, if someone tops out at their salary and the state gives them a raise, do they still get that raise, or because they've topped out, do they just not get it?
No, that's a good question. At one point in time, historically, what they would do is provide a one-time payment for those individuals. What they've been doing more recently, the last few years, is putting language in the legislative increase, saying that employees who even are at or above the max of the range currently would still get the legislative increase. So that's what we've been seeing the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Teal?
Yeah, morning, Linc. So at the September 13th Faculty Council meeting, the Office of Faculty Affairs introduced a new program called Elevate. This program introduces a strategic university-wide approach to recruiting and retaining top-tier faculty. According to the presentation, the program is rooted in a strong belief and philosophy that all faculty should be able to thrive at Carolina. Specifically, the Elevate program includes a university-wide approach to mentoring, wellness groups, and talent pipeline programs. So my question for you is, does the university plan to roll out a similar university-wide approach to staff recruitment and retainment? I know hiring and retaining a staff has been a topic of conversation in this meeting today with you and with Christi earlier. It was also flagged for the Board of Trustees earlier this year as one of the university's top 5 enterprise risks. And as you've alluded to with some of your discussion already, it's my understanding that many staff hiring and talent development decisions are currently left to schools and units rather than done in a holistic university-wide approach. Thanks.
No, that's a great question, Matt. And we are taking a look at what they're doing on the faculty side. As you may be aware, we did have around the mentoring piece. We did have a proposal go forward that now that we had some turnover in our senior director for organizational professional development. Kathleen Ware is now the senior director there. She's working with her team to try and get that program set up. But yeah, we would like to do something more holistically, and we want to see what they're doing on the faculty side and see what we might be able to build out. But as part of that, we want to also engage partners like you to have those conversations to figure out, what should that look like? What does it need to look like? But yeah, there's a lot of interest in doing that. It's a great question, Matt, and looking forward to partnering with you on it.
Liz?
Yeah, I would just plug, obviously, the Personnel Issues Committee and obviously the forum as a whole, I think should be involved with that. And it sounds like we've got a lot of great perspectives from across the university who would be happy to provide feedback and insight on what's going to make a real difference on the ground for employees.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Liz?
Hey, all. I don't expect an answer to this, but I just have to thumbtack it up there on the discussion board. There are staff in very small departments that can't afford raises to us and who are doing the usual 2 jobs instead of 1 because somebody left, or their job and another level of expertise they're never going to be elevated to. What is the university doing for small departments that want to do better, but it's not in their budget? This is such a frustrating thing to be a ping pong ball between, and yet there you are. It's your job, it's your paycheck, and it's your workload. Anyway, I'm speaking on behalf of all those people, not just me.
Yeah, thanks for that, Elizabeth. And again, I know you brought this up in prior meetings as well. Again, the departments are the ones who actually establish the budgets on what to do. I'm happy to take that back to my team and figure out how we might be able to engage with some of those departments who maybe are part of a larger organization to try and figure out how do we have a little bit more impact than what's been currently happening and historically happening.
Linc, I'd appreciate that. And let me put one more piece of verbiage in there. Departments that are that small are also that stressed, and their leadership probably has less time to engage on our behalf. So sure. I'd like the directionality to come from the central leadership to the small departments. And, they may not even feel comfortable naming who they are. I would like, as a member of the employee forum and a delegate on my division, to say, please come to us and ask us what we need as we deal with this, because some of us are absolutely underwater.
Understood.
Literally. With all due respect to the people in Western North Carolina, sometimes we're in buildings that are flooding, and then all the resources have to go to dealing with that and all of the energy, and it's just heartbreaking.
Sure. Thank you.
Matt, you had one more question, and then we'll get to Joe's open enrollment updates, which I know everybody's eagerly waiting for.
Yeah, sorry to keep folks waiting. So, Linc, I've got one more question for you. Do you have any updates on when the university will move into compliance with the UNC system policies 300.1.1 and 300.2.22? These are ones that Becky's talked about in the past that make significant updates for EHRA faculty and non-faculty employees about leave, separation, and even the name moving to the exempt personnel, EPS, I think it's called. Again, I know Becky's raised this at previous forum meetings. I just want to get the latest information about the timeline, because the system policies took effect 9 months ago, and other universities in the UNC system published guidance about this. App State published guidance about this 4 months ago today. So I'm just wondering when we're going to hear from Central HR about and see the implementation of these updates.
Okay, so the App State guidance looks like more of a notice. The timeline for virtually all of this is looking into the first of the year in 2025. Part of the EPS classification system that Becky's talking about has to do with salary ranges being established for those new classifications. We're still waiting and providing feedback to the system office on that being finalized. That's sort of the first, I think, big hurdle that needs to be jumped in order for the other things to fall in place. But it's looking, a lot of those things will likely start either in January of 2025 or after. So, for example, you've all heard us talk about the SHRA to EHRA conversion process. That's likely to happen sometime in the spring in coordination with payroll. There is also the EPS leave program that we'll be communicating out. We're working with payroll on that now, not only to develop the infrastructure needed to be able to manage that new sort of leave program, but also to develop communication around that we'll send out a little bit later in the year. So I'd say stay tuned. More's coming. You can expect to see some communication to us probably in the November timeline around that. And then further communication into early 2025 about those election periods that we're going to need to offer for folks to be able to make decisions. But the last thing we wanted to do is start those election windows without having the full information first, because people need to make informed decisions about whether or not they want to either opt into the new EPS League program, for example, or make a decision to go to EHRA. And not having the full classification system, the salary ranges, that just didn't make sense to us. So we want to make sure folks have everything they need to make a well-informed decision.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, turn it over to Joe for open enrollment updates.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen with you here. So as you all know perhaps, and hopefully all know by now, there it is. The piece that we want to talk about today especially is our open enrollment. And the reason we want to chat about that is because each of you who are part of the state health plan especially must take some action. And so we're going to be chatting just a little bit. I need to move some things around here so I can get to my screen. There it is. The best way to see more information about our open enrollment website, if you can navigate to our UNC benefits homepage, we've got our go to open enrollment. And again, it started September 30th. Will continue through October 25th. So we're calling this kind of 4 weeks of fun. And it is that once a year opportunity to make, add, delete any changes to your benefit plans that will go into effect January 1. I looked at the numbers this morning. We have just over 2,000 staff and faculty have taken some action on their open enrollment. We've got about 13,000 or so folks in the state health plan. So again, we're getting there. This is sort of normal at this point. As far as numbers, usually what happens those last kind of 3 or 4 days of open enrollment is where we get the really big surge. But again, we want to kind of keep reminding folks, go out there as early as you can to do your open enrollment. If you get stuck or something happens, again, you've got time to kind of work with the support centers or reaching out to our office for some guidance or for some help. So I want to kind of just show you this open enrollment website. I'm real big on kind of teaching people to fish rather than just throwing fish at them. So I want to kind of just show you here's, kind of where you need to go. Here are the things you need to be looking at. So again, under the benefits open enrollment site, we've got kind of what's new, the plans, how to enroll, more information about the tobacco attestation, and then how to get help. So these 4 buttons will be, really good friends for you. I've got a little video also just kind of talking about some of the changes. Last month, I talked about Aetna to this group and about how really, for the most part, it is a non-event because, again, the state health plan is a self-funded plan managed by the state treasurer's office. They have their own board of trustees. The board of trustees sets what's covered, what's not covered, how much things are paid at. Costs, premium costs, co-insurance, deductibles. Again, all that's decided by the state health plan, not by Blue Cross, not by Aetna. So Aetna simply will be the one who will be processing claims or utilizing their network. They'll be sending out the member ID cards. So again, for the most part, we won't see a whole lot of difference in our state health plan. You will, of course, get new ID cards if you're in the state health plan for 2025. Those should come to you probably around December at some point. One thing that's a little different that you'll notice this year is that you will be asked or required to put in a primary care provider. And I will say asked, not required, but to list a primary care provider. We are getting a lot of calls and email about people who are struggling just a little bit to find their provider. And so I've been talking with the UNC system and with the state health plan as well. You are linking into kind of Aetna's network as far as their find a doctor kind of feature. And what I found, and I actually do my wife's open enrollment. She did an early retirement, so she's in the retiree state health plan. But I did her open enrollment, and I noticed when I was trying to locate her primary care provider, I was listing in the name of the practice, and it just was not coming up. So I'm like, this is odd. Now, what I remembered was I could actually go look up the address, the actual physical street address of that location, and I put the address in there, and boom, it popped right up. And then what I noticed was the name of the practice was a little different than what I had in my head or what I knew to be true. So again, that's where some of the issue is. Sometimes when providers are putting this information into Blue Cross or Aetna, there may be abbreviating something or, listing it in a very unique way that maybe you're not familiar with. And so again, in a regular kind of search parameter, it will have a hard time finding that. So I would encourage you, if you can, just put that actual address in there. Now, the other piece that we're having some issues with, sometimes people will say, hey, I find, the office that I want to, use, but my actual primary care provider is not listed. So one good thing to know about that is it doesn't matter who your primary care provider is in that particular office location, because you will get credit for that primary care provider, even if you click on someone else and someone else's name is on your card. As long as your provider is in that office location, you will still pay that lower rate for seeing a listed primary care provider. So again, I think that's just something to be aware of. I'm sure the state health plan will continue kind of working through that to try to make that a little bit better. But for now, again, that seems to be a little bit of a pain point for some folks. Again, the other thing to do is you can call the state enrollment center and again, do your open enrollment over the phone, and they can actually help you maybe find your primary care provider a little easier. So if you do struggle with that, please let them know and they can certainly help you. We've got, again, a lot of information on this site. The how to enroll is also kind of another piece. Again, just to remind everyone, it is in Connect Carolina self-service under the My Benefits tile. You'll click over on the left on benefits enrollment. You have the two portals there listed for the state enrollment portal, and then, of course, the UNC system enrollment portal. So again, you need to visit both portals physically to make any changes or updates to your benefits. Again, if you're in the state health plan, everyone will default to the 70-30 plan. So everyone has to go in if you want the 80-20 or to remain in the 70-30. And you have to do that tobacco attestation every year during the open enrollment period. So again, that's an important piece, because if you don't answer that tobacco question, even though you want the 70-30 plan, you're going to pay $60 a month in a tobacco surcharge. So when you answer that question, I'll also say, make sure you answer it correctly. Be careful, because last year we had about 10 or 12 folks who answered it incorrectly. And because they answered it incorrectly, even though they never smoked a day in their life or used tobacco, they still had to pay that $60 surcharge. So again, answer it correctly. I'm not a tobacco user. I am a tobacco user, or I am a tobacco user but willing to do a tobacco cessation visit. As long as that visit is done by November 30th, you will get the credit for the tobacco attestation. And then, of course, the UNC system enrollment portal. Again, that's everything else. So state enrollment, state health plan, tobacco attestation, everything else is in this UNC system enrollment portal. And then the big thing in blue here, the save those elections. It's really important that you get to the very end and make sure you're saving, accepting, confirming. You're doing that at the end. In the state enrollment portal, you will note that, once you finalize your enrollment, you'll get that little congratulations message at the top. And then you can kind of click to see that confirmation if you would like. I certainly just kind of recommend, take a picture with your cell phone, do a screenshot, do something, just in case. But as long as you see that congratulations message on the state enrollment portal, you've done what you needed to do. That's a great thing. And then again, you'll get a similar type messaging that you've completed your open enrollment on the UNC system portal side. All right, and let me back up here. We talked about the tobacco attestation, and then certainly kind of under the help section, just to remind you about the State Enrollment Support Center and the UNC System Service Center. Those phone numbers, those times are listed. Again, open enrollment goes through kind of Friday, 11:59 p.m. on that Friday, October 25th. You'll note, though, for instance, if you wait till that last hour or two, you're on your own, because, again, the support center closes at 10 p.m. on each night, Monday through Friday. So, again, if you can, try to do your open enrollment as early as you can. And then finally, if you just need some additional help, my office, we're going to be seeing people on Fridays during open enrollment, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Just saw a message. We got 2 or 3 people up front now that are here for help. But you can stop by AOB on Airport Drive, and we have folks here that can assist you, just sit down side by side with you to help with your open enrollment. So with that, I'm going to pause here and see what questions you might have.
Teresa.
Hey, this is more just a comment. Hi, Joe. Just wanted to say hello and thank you for the video because I used it to train my staff this year.
Great.
So it was very well done, and so glad to hear that we're seeing numbers in a good range. One question, if you would, before, if there's no other questions after me, just remind us about the retiree email change.
Okay,
Going
sure.
to happen on the 10th. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Other open enrollment questions?
Julie had one in the chat. Said you mentioned that the state health plan looks different than regular Aetna. Aetna recently took lactation services off their coverage. Since we are covered by the state version of Aetna, would this mean that our plan would still have lactation care and coverage?
Correct, yeah. So again, regardless of what Aetna does, as long as it's in the state health plan documentations, and if you want to navigate to the state health plan's website, I believe it's shpnc.org, O-R-G. Again, you can go there. There's a plan booklet, and it's about I think it's a 140-page document that tells you everything that's covered and not covered. But again, the state health plan has not changed coverage on that we're aware of.
Awesome. And Joe, there was one more request to share the video again. If you'll send that to me, I can make sure that delegates get it in my post email.
Sure.
Megan.
Hey, I just wanted to clarify, there's a sentence at the end of the first paragraph on the page you had up that said coverage will not change, period. When we transfer to Aetna, is that forever, indefinitely, or is there a time limit on that?
As far as we know, that's an indefinite kind of a thing. Again, the state health plan, they are the ones who make any decisions about what's covered, what's not covered, and the costs. It is not Aetna. It is not Blue Cross Blue Shield. They do not drive the state health plan.
Any other questions for Joe around open enrollment?
We love you, Joe.
Their open enrollment. Raise your hands up.
Thanks. Appreciate y'all.
I love it. Thank you. Any other updates from you, Joe, or we'll move to Jessica?
That's it. I think Teresa had just wanted me to kind of just make a quick clarification. So when people retire from the university, staff or faculty, when they're retiring either from teasers or the optional retirement program through TIAA, staff are given an affiliate status. Faculty are given an emeritus status. And what that does, essentially, it allows them to keep their UNC email for up to 10 years, and then they can re-renew it for another 10 indefinitely. What has changed, though, is through ITS, there's been some security kind of updates where in the past, people, retirees would be able to kind of have the Outlook, like we use maybe Outlook on our work computers. But because of security, these are like non-UNC computers. And so as one of the kind of security pieces or components to this, they have kind of changed this format where now retirees to access their UNC email must use the web browser called HEAL, H-E-E-L mail. And again, the HEAL mail is how they will now access their email, not using the Outlook app.
IT.
All right.
Gotta love
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And my buddy Jessica's here to share some great stuff with you.
Jessica, take it away.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but it's good to see you all. I just want to remind you that the EAP services, of course, continue to be there available for everyone, and just remind you how that works. That phone number and, of course, the website, like any other, is available 24/7. When calling our EAP phone number, typically that's an intake process. Where they'll collect some information from you. None of that information about specific user identifying information ever comes back to the university, but they do collect some information from you. It's not connected with the state health plan in any way, so no insurance information is collected. And for that reason, the providers providing counseling through EAP may or may not accept state health plan insurance. So know if you're looking to speak with someone for more than the 3 free sessions that you are asking to be referred to folks who do accept the state health plan. But this is provided by us, your employer, and again, that number is 877-314-5841. in response to the recent hurricane of the tragedy of the hurricane, sorry folks, guidance resources, your EAP resources, did create a crisis portal that is online. That does not require any user sign-in. So if you've never visited the guidance resource website, when you created your account with Tar Heels code, you do not need to log in or need that code to check out the crisis portal. So that's available on the hurricane website that Linc referred earlier today, and it will also be in the newsletter. We went ahead and updated some of the content available in the Total Wellbeing On-Demand Library in the section on trauma and coping. So these are resources, again, provided by your EAP. I simply share them out in a way that's easier for you to access so you don't have to log in to view any of those materials. Again, on our EAP website, which has been shared by the Chancellor, will be shared again in the newsletter and lives on our HR site. If you do want to speak with someone more long-term, there is a website called Headway Behavioral Health where you can search for a provider that way. As far as our regularly programs for our Wellness Wednesdays, our upcoming topics over the next month are on the 16th, we have mental health for optimal brain power. The 23rd, we have overcoming negative thinking. The 30th, healthy food on the go. And on November 6th, we have a brand new topic, which is bedtime routines for adults. As that time of year, we fall back an hour. So that is a new topic that we're bringing to you. I do want to remind you of your flu shot clinic that is available throughout campus this month, and they will be at, of course, Employee Appreciation Day like they normally are. So make sure to visit them if you're interested in getting your flu shot. Bring your one card and your insurance card. I do want to remind you, too, that in addition to our Helping Heals, which is our part-time child care list, as well as pet care and senior care, you do have access to the Child Care Referral Central, which is run by the Child Care Association that we contract with to provide our student and employee child care scholarships. They provide child care referrals to employees, so they don't just manage the scholarships, but they are the point people. If you're searching for childcare, they're the best people to contact. So that lives on our website as well under childcare resources on the Work Life and Wellness tab, and will be featured in the newsletter. You'll see a lot of discounts featured in the newsletter this month. Working Advantage is offering an additional discount for those purchasing things $100 or more, a 10% savings, which each of those, with the exception of no additional discounts off of the discounted flights they offer. As you're selecting your own health insurance, maybe it's a good time to think if you want to get pet insurance if you have a pet at home. This is not associated with open enrollment whatsoever, but just if you're thinking about the same thing, know that that's available to you to save 20% off of pet insurance through Spot Pet Insurance. If you were to leave the university, which we hope that you don't until you're retiring, but the pet insurance the discounted rate does stay with you as long as you're locked in as an employee. And in addition to the savings for expensive medical procedures and routine procedures, your pet too, you'll have 24/7 access to pet telehealth to ask any questions on what type of action you should take. We had a fantastic presentation by Beam today. Really enjoyed that. We do always invite them to the expo. They come to Employee Appreciation Day. I hope that you've all had an opportunity to make a free button by now. But I did want to let you know that there is a AR workshop in Durham that just recently started offering our employees 10% off of DIY craft projects. This is a limited time offer. It's going till the end of the spring semester, May 31st, but they have different types of workshops and open classes that you can check out. And they have pretty much an open craft weekend most weekends of the month, where craft projects range from 45 minutes to 2 hours and cost between $10 and $50. So if you show your UNC ID, you can save there. And then the final discount is that a community resource available to community members as well as you as employees is that there's a STEM-focused education program called Students to Scholars, that if you have a student and you're residing in Durham, North Carolina, they can assist with getting your student to the next level, helping them prepare for high school. It's for middle-aged students, provide free tutoring, parent support, etc. So you're going to see that information in the newsletter as well. In addition, there'll be a healthy recipe in the newsletter that we've been focusing on this month. It will be tailgate focused and football focused. And we gave a kudos to our wellness champions, Venetia, in the School of Nursing. Despite being displaced, she led the wellness champions efforts in the spring semester and did a lot of great work on educating employees the importance of staying hydrated, educating employees about the dangers of microplastics, and then scheduling various field trips with employees to the Cat Cafe here in Chapel Hill, as well as doing an escape room and visiting a mental health facility. So congratulations to Wellness Champions Venetia and in the School of Nursing. Any questions for me?
I think there was one in the chat. Linc is confirming. Is it just flu shots and employee appreciation, or are there COVID boosters available as well?
There are COVID boosters. Thanks, Linc. They're going to be at different locations, though. You'll see that on the website as the email went out yesterday across campus. So the flu shots will be at the Student Union like they usually are, and the COVID boosters are very close to the pit, but they're upstairs by the pharmacy.
Great. Any other questions for Jessica? As always, thanks, Jessica, and look forward to getting those updates and sharing those out with delegates.
Great seeing you all. I'm glad you're all safe.
Jessica, you're the GOAT.
Thank you, Keith. Good luck to you.
All right, folks, moving on to the next section of our agenda, which is the consent agenda, which includes the September 13th minutes Matt sent out separately. Hope you all have had a chance to review them. Love to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
James Stamey.
I second.
Keith Hines seconds. Any discussion on the minutes? Consent agenda? Hearing none. We'll do this by acclamation. Are there any opposed to the approval of the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, the consent agenda passes. Thanks, everybody. We're pulling out, and we did committee updates separately on the agenda this time around since we haven't done them the past couple of months. I know that a lot of committees are well underway in their work in October. So with that, we're going to read through all the committees and committee chairs. If you have updates, love to hear from you. So first one is Communications Public Relations. Shane or Joe, any updates from Common PR?
Sounds like Shane's not here. No updates other than an In Touch will go out soon, and we're working on the plan for the scavenger hunt, and that might be impacted by the recent hurricane and that whole situation. We'll let you know.
Great, thank you for that. Book Club, any updates from Natalia or Vanessa? I believe they had a great in-person showing at the September meeting, so kudos and thanks to Matt for his help ordering the lunches for that. Okay, community service. Allie and Teresa, I do have a quick update from a meeting I was in earlier this week, but first, Teresa or Allie, any updates?
Hey, this is Teresa. I'm not sure if Allie could get off mute, but we have a survey that we're about to send out regarding our activities of the things that we have done in the past as far as the kindness drive, our holiday activities and things. However, that also may be impacted by the hurricane and what we do with that as part of the community service committee. So just keep an eye out for that. And Allie, I don't know if you're still on and can add into that, and if I misspoke, please correct me.
Yes, I'm still on. So one thing is, I believe both Teresa and I attended. I was able to make half of it of a hurricane relief campus meeting. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of consolidate the messages sent in there. But one of the hit home kind of points was best to do right now is to donate in a monetary fashion until there's a lot of more focused like donation drives that are able to get out there and planned more skillfully throughout the next couple of months. So that's what we learned from that meeting.
Yeah, Allie, Teresa, myself, and Shayna were all in attendance at that Carolina Center for Public Service meeting earlier this week, talking about UNC's coordinated response to hurricane relief in the western part of our state. And really, as Allie said, the kind of key point was monetary donations are really priority right now, given the self-deployment of supplies to a disaster relief area is really, really tough. It can sometimes negatively impact those communities and the first responders' efforts to actively triage the situation out there. So the kind of main point was there's a lot of monetary ways that we can donate to organizations that are boots on the ground already out there and kind of focus our efforts that way. But in due time, Carolina Center for Public Service is going to be triaging the efforts on their website because we will get to a point where physical supplies and even human power is going to be necessary in response to the events. So keeping an eye on the Carolina Center for Public Service website as a way to kind of focus our energies in responding to this tragedy. And I'll also say, I think our committee, community service committee, and even the staff assembly level have been thinking about how we want to respond, because I know for Keith, myself, and Shayna, and others on staff assembly, we have colleagues on staff assembly that are directly impacted by this. So supporting our sister schools, including App State, North Carolina School for Science and Math has a campus in Morganton, UNC Asheville, and Western Carolina, all really need our help and support right now. So there are some links to disaster relief funds for those specific campuses where students and those impacted can obtain funds and support. So I'm hoping to maybe send out a kind of follow-up kind of how-to from this meeting. They have promised to send that out to us, and once I get it, I will forward it out to the group. But I think closer down the line, maybe over the holidays when we usually do our donation drive, we could look at doing a physical collection of supplies to get out there in coordination with an organization that's already on the ground out there. So all of that said, all of our thoughts are really with Keith. I know you live out there, but really everyone impacted in the western part of our state. So more to come on this, but UNC is going to respond and wanting to make sure we do that in a coordinated and responsible way that doesn't negatively impact those who are suffering out there. So more to come on that, hopefully in my post-meeting email that I usually send out. Okay. Any other updates from community service before I move to blood drive? Liz, you have your hand up.
This will be beautifully intersectional, Katie. My friend is in the Red Cross with the first responders. She's finally home doing her laundry. And she mentioned that if there's people that really cannot donate financially but want to help, another thing that can be asked is whether there's a local chapter of people that are being deployed who need more hands-on people to continue the work they do here, such as blood drives. So I'm wondering if the committee's working on ways that we can help could include ways we can be on the ground with our effort if we don't have finances, and how that would not get in the way and yet still contribute a lot of support.
So the Carolina Center for Public Service website that both Christi and myself have mentioned already is really our key place that we want to funnel all of the people who are looking for resources and how to help. They are collecting all of that information and are going to host it there. So I think one centralized place and not trying to duplicate that effort is going to be important. So if you have questions or want to look for reputable organizations you can donate to, all of that information should be on the Carolina Center for Public Service website. And if it's not already, they are currently building out all of those resources. So keep an eye out for that. But again, an employee forum focused effort, I think around a donation drive or something, will likely be in the coming weeks or couple months. So more to come. Okay. Carolina Blood Drive.
It's me, Renata. I'm right here. So we are about 71 days out from the blood drive. And as Elizabeth noted, that they are doing a big push for blood donations. So unfortunately, our drive won't be able to directly contribute to the need in Western North Carolina right now, but we can replenish the resources. And I think it's going to be pretty tight if we try to push for people to donate blood right now. They probably wouldn't make the cutoff for the drive in December. So those are two things that we have to weigh: the success of our blood drive in December, which is normally one of the biggest in southeastern portion of the United States. So if we can't help directly right now, we can help replenish just in case there's ever another emergency in the future where blood is needed. As a reminder, the blood drive is December 11th. From 7 to 2 at Fetzer Gym. We do have an unpublished hour from 2 to 3 p.m. where we'll be taking additional walk-ins. Right now, we're just trying to launch everything. We're getting our marketing materials put together. Our website is live if you want to go ahead and schedule your appointment to donate on December 11th. We will also be at the Employee Appreciation Day Expo at a table right next to the Employee Forum if you guys want to come and sign up then. We are also looking for a featured donor for some of our marketing materials that we send out. So if you know someone who's been a dedicated donor at UNC, or if you yourself have a great story behind why you donate, please reach out and we can see about getting you guys published. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Renata. I don't see Arlene on the call. So we'll skip over community garden this time around. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sarah and Lori, any updates from y'all?
Yeah, hi, thank you all. We have our next meeting coming up on Monday. It is a big meeting for this council, this committee, because we are voting on our priorities. So if you wanted to be and didn't sign up for the committee, show up. If you are on the committee, please put it on your calendar and show up. It is going to be hybrid. We are trying to do more in-person opportunities. So we will be at the Coker building. It's at 2 p.m. Yeah, so that's the update, is that we will be having updates, but the plan is to make subcommittees and really start doing the work. So it's an important meeting. If you can make it, if you want to share your voice, we would love to hear it. Again, it is hybrid, so if you can't make it in person to Coker, not a big deal. We will send out that Zoom link. And if you are not already on the committee, but feeling like you're inspired, email us and we will add you to the list.
Excellent. Leadership, education, and career development, Ellie and or Siobhan? No, not Siobhan.
Yeah, Siobhan.
Siobhan? Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
I have no updates, other than we are in professional development grant land. But we will send out, I think we have to send out another announcement about professional development grant opening. So I'll get on that and get that information to Matt.
Awesome. Yes, professional development grants should be opening soon. More to come on that. Okay. Membership and engagement. Any updates from Tiffany and or Keith?
There are 8 delegates present in this room today. That's all I got.
Well, I have more. So to elaborate on what Tiffany said, listen, we have to pay to rent these rooms and then the food that is provided in these spaces. So we are going to re-examine whether or not we are going to do hybrid meetings or just do like the December social as more in person, and then the 1.5 day retreat, the outdoor activity, whatever it is we do, whether that, and I mean, we'll keep that as an in-person. We're going to be very selective on these in-person things because basically we're spending money where we really don't have to. If it's only going to be 8 people in the room and then 60 people on Zoom, we'll just do it on Zoom, save and funnel those funds to somewhere else. So trying to meet the needs where they are, but apparently the need is not for hybrid from what I'm seeing. And this may be an anomaly, but I don't think it is. So that's that. Committee chairs. Tiffany and I are going to reach out to you after the end of this month so you can get through your monthly meetings. I hope you all have been taking roll and attendance at your committee meetings like we've asked several times, because we will be auditing that to see the activity. Not saying we're monitoring what you're doing. We are looking at, are people on the forum actually actively working? Because we had people that wanted to be on the forum that weren't able to be on the forum because, you know, they didn't win their election, but there are people that are willing to do the work. So if people are not showing up to what they agreed to do when they said they wanted to be a part of the employee forum, we need to know that, because if you're not going to do the work, don't take up the space where somebody else is willing to do the work. So that will be coming. So yes, okay, apparently the space is free, but the food is not. Either way, we're still going to reassess it because, like, Matt hauls all this stuff over here in his little wagon when we could have done it on the Zoom. And, you know, Tiffany organizes all the food, and there's like a bunch of food still left out there. And it's a Friday, so there are no students around to take it. So that's a waste. That's just it, you know, and given what just happened, today may not be the day to waste food.
Touche, Keith. Sarah first and then Megan.
Just wanted to do a plug for the survey. Employee forum members, please, I'll put the link back in the chat, but for your building or your department, please fill out this survey that lets us know what rooms are available, because to Keith's point, not every room is free. There are rooms that have to be paid for or reserved. It's a complicated task. And so we should all be sharing this effort. So please fill out for your area, if that's a whole school, if that's just a building, if you have spaces that are available, conference rooms, we're looking for 25, 40 people plus. But knowing about these spaces is important. So whatever you have, please fill out this survey. We would appreciate it.
Thanks for putting that together, Sarah. Megan?
Hey, I just wanted to say a huge thanks to you guys for trying to get people to show up in person. I really appreciate that. I don't know if you noticed, but I had 4 guests with me that were able to show up. I had issues getting people to show up on Friday, unfortunately, because a lot of people in facilities work 410s, so they're not even here on Friday. And I greatly appreciate it, but I do agree with you that is a waste of food, energy, all of that stuff. And I'm hoping that we can find some kind of compromise or something where facilities workers can still come if they want to and be a part of the meetings, like maybe the space with the screen over on Franklin Street that you were talking about, Matt, could be implemented at some point.
We're hoping to implement that as an option for our completely Zoom meetings. But like the request was to have more hybrid meetings like this, and I think we tried to accommodate that. And this happened once before, right after kind of getting out of the COVID pandemic, and we chalked it up to people weren't comfortable yet being in person, so we kind of shifted back fully to Zoom. I think people are comfortable. I think it's just an issue. I think some of the folks in the chat are right. It's a weird week, so maybe extending some grace if we can. So we'll test it out one more time, because we have these set ones coming up in December. We have one in the spring and then the June one. So like we've got some set pieces, but I think encouraging the fellow delegates, please come in person if you can. I know given the Chancellor couldn't be here today and Christi was the one speaking, the Chancellor really loves the in-person kind of dialogue and back and forth. So he is going to be at the spring session. So hopefully we can have that one in person and have some good dialogue. But we'll do some kind of behind the scenes membership and engagement, encouragement of delegates to come in person for these hybrid meetings where they can. So, and again, I know it's early, but I woke up early to get here too. So.
And I just want to say, Katie, I would have been there, but I completely forgot. So maybe in the agenda, if we put like reminder, this one's in person, I would have had my butt there. Oh, well, dang it. That's on me then. My bad, bro.
We updated the Outlook invites. We updated the agenda. We did all of those things, but we'll do more plugs at each meeting to prepare folks in advance. Make sure you come to the in-person ones. So. Yeah, it is a weird week, I think. So this is not, I think, to be expected moving forward.
Today is my wedding anniversary, and I don't normally come to campus on Fridays.
That.
And I'm here.
That.
I will leave it at that.
I don't even live here.
Yeah. So putting in the effort and making sure we show up is really important. So Jacob, did you have your hand up? No. Yeah, I again think that is one aspect of it, but I think this week in particular is hard to gauge what factors are affecting what. So I don't think we should use this as the test case, but we'll see at the December one. So any other thoughts around membership and engagement? Okay.
I just want to call up Anetta's comment, which is I am seconding the elimination of food. I think beverages is totally good. And if it's about money, that
it's a small amount of food out there. It's mostly beverages, but again, that costs money. So, yeah. And Tiffany is going to vote a hard no on potluck.
Hard, absolutely no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
We used to do that pre-pandemic, and it's a hard no post-pandemic. So. Thanks, Steph. Personnel issues, Sharon and/or Greg.
I'll start, and then Greg can add anything he's got. We have not met since we had a meeting in the first part of September, but we've not met since then. We are intending on doing a resolution, and that has not started yet. So that will be forthcoming. This has just been a really rough month. We have sent out if anyone has not yet responded, Greg has sent out a poll to see, we're trying to find better time, consistent time for our meetings. And so if you haven't already responded, please do so. Greg, anything you can think of to add?
Nothing additional from my end. Thanks.
Okay. Recognition and awards, Shayla and/or Charlie. I think they have a meeting coming up in November, I think, to touch base again about preparing for the spring award season. So if you are interested in joining, let them know. Rules, Jacob had to step out. I don't think there's rules updates. Staff assembly, Keith, do you want to give updates?
Okay, staff assembly. So we have a meeting coming up in November at the UNC School of Science, UNC School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. Katie, myself, Shayna, and James and Rebecca will be attending that. It is election season for staff assembly, so we will be electing a new chair. A chair-elect, because Shayna still has a year left on her term. Katie and I are both running for delegate at large. Not sure of anyone else that's running, but that's what's happening with the delegation from UNC-Chapel Hill. Should I just flow into the golf tournament? So the golf tournament took place on Wednesday of last week. A good time was had by all. It was a really good turnout. This is the first time in known history that we had a full 30-team field. So we did have 120 golfers, and we also had about 120 volunteers. So thank you to all of those from UNC who came, and whether you were at the UNC hole number 10 or you were one of the other people that was assigned duties. As Susie said, there were no hole-in-ones. Her and Teresa were my hole-in-one witnesses. No one got one. So no one won a golf cart. But no, UNC-Chapel Hill really did step up and show up for this, and it turned out really, really well. Everyone seemed to have a good time. It did not rain until like the last two golf teams were coming in, so that was good. I don't have any totals for what we raised as of yet because we're still sorting out paying the bills compared to what was brought in. But thank you to everyone that participated. Not sure where next year's going to be, but one thing I can assure you is that I will not be chairing next year. So I'm sure whoever does will be looking for your participation as well, but it will not be me. But no, truly do appreciate it. I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions about any of that? The golf tournament?
Keith? I know we've only got a few minutes left, so Jacob? No, not yet. Keith was saying we have to pay our bills and do all that stuff first before we have totals. Okay, so I'm not going to read through every committee, university level committee, but if the representatives have an update they want to bring forward, let me know. I do have one announcement about this, is that there is a new university level committee that I have been invited to serve on, and it's called the Public Affairs Council. This is a group of senior leaders like deans, myself, Beth, various folks like Maria Estorino at the libraries, Veronica Flasspohler at the Carolina Alumni Association, all of those different kind of senior leaders coming together to talk quarterly about our efforts advocating for UNC to the legislature and the state. So various public affairs focused things. So it's been nice to have been invited to that. So hopefully that group will start meeting soon. So that is a new one on the list. Any other folks, university committee representatives, want to bring forward an update? Sarah.
This is not going to be a popular update, but I think it's important that everyone on the forum know about this. I was on two committees, the DEI Council and the Peers for Progress, and both of them have been eliminated. I talked about the one, and obviously the DEI one makes sense, but just pointing out the patterns. Thanks.
When you say the Peers for Progress has been deleted, do you mean the Carolina Peer Support Collaborative?
Yep, that was hosted through Peers for Progress. Sorry, thank you. The CPSC. Yep.
Okay, got it. I was not aware that it extended to that committee. Hopefully, Christi takes that feedback and we're able to restore that group because it's been helpful.
Ooh, and thank you, Jessica, for putting in the chat. The Mental Health First Aid is also losing its funding at the end of the year. Yeah, just noticing patterns, y'all, and bringing this up in meetings where you can. Thank you.
The calendar year or the academic year, Jessica? Calendar year. So yeah, that's very soon. That's very concerning and kind of contrary to Christi's thought that it was expanding, not decreasing. So hopefully there's just been some lines of cross lines of communication. So getting that to Christi earlier in this meeting is super critical. So yeah, we need to expand mental health access, not diminish it. So yes. Okay. I'm going to move into other final things. The one thing I'm going to share as a part of old business is that I finally was able to finalize from my end a draft of the annual report from last year. I'm going to share my screen and just kind of quickly scroll through it. We're not going to read it. I'm going to give y'all an assignment in my post-meeting email to kind of read through it and give me any feedback in the next week or so before I send this on to the Chancellor. But I just want to point out a few things about this. So let me share my screen. All right, can you all see my screen? Okay. So the top part is our officers this past year. Then we move into division representatives this past year. And again, this goes through June of 2024. So not this current delegation. This was last delegation. Our mission, our vision, monthly meeting time. There's several appendices, which we'll get to in the end. The section that's highlighted here and a couple other sections further down is what I want you guys to take a look at, tweak, edit, revise, or send any feedback. And you're welcome to add a section if I missed anything in terms of what we worked on in 23-24. So just read through the report of 23-24 activities and provide feedback. We get to our list of resolutions and proclamations we passed, our committee chairs for the year, a list of our committees and their annual reports, our university committee representation. Again, this was this past year. It'll get updated for next year in the next annual report. And then finally, the challenges from 23-24 and goals for this coming year. These were worked on and developed during the retreat, and I cleaned them up a little bit. So just a final read through of the challenges and the goals sections to make sure y'all are happy with them. And then we get to the appendices, which includes a division breakdown of number of delegates in each division and the election and how many seats were filled. Again, this is for the term ending June 2024. Again, list of delegates, anyone active between July 23 and June 24. Anyone that was appointed in April of this year is considered this new delegation, so they're not on this list if they were new delegates elected in April. And at the end, we've got our honorary lifelong delegates and an overview of our budget last year. Okay, so with all of that said, this document lives on the Employee Forum Teams page under General. So feel free to go in and update and edit and tweak, but I'll mention this in my post-meeting email as well to have y'all take a look at this and do one final look through before we send it on to the Chancellor. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everything. Okay, moving into announcements and questions. An update from the last meeting. Victoria Dowd mentioned ombuds posters that were going to be available. They are now available, so you can email her, Victoria Dowd, or you can stop by the forum office. I think Matt's going to have a stock of them available. 2 upcoming meetings we've got in November. Staff Advisory Committee to the Chancellor's stack is on November 5th. And the Vice Chancellor's Representatives meeting is on November 14th. A call for questions for that meeting will go out in October. Oh God, it's already October. And then, as always, just spending the last couple of minutes in community with one another, doing kind of takes a village, giving shout outs and kudos to your fellow staff. Anyone you want to shout out, feel free to unmute yourself.
This is Liz. I'm giving a shout out to Keith. I hear you about not wanting to be in charge of the golf tournament, but given that this was something you put so much of yourself into, that I actually can't stand golfing or being out in hot weather either. I just love that you have brought that so much energy.
Agreed. Sarah.
Agreed.
I want to shout out Charlie. She was able to make a task list in the teams so that groups can be looking at upcoming events and needs and keep track of these and make it really transparent for everyone, all of the delegates, to see what's going on. If y'all haven't looked at the team space, Charlie is a rock star in there and has organized and populated everything. We got a whole group of people together to do it, and she knocked it out by herself. Rock star level, so kudos.
Charlie is a rock star indeed. We love her.
To jump on that, I don't know if people realize across the entire university how much Charlie does. Like, it's not just with Employee Forum and with our organization and the things we do. It is across multiple groups that she does this same exact, well, I mean, maybe not the same exact task, but the same amount of effort and commitment across so many groups across the university. So yes, Charlie is that girl.
Her birthday, so that's why she's not here.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, she's not. She's celebrating. It's her birthday today. Yes, it's Charlie's birthday. It was yesterday, but it's today too.
She gets a pass for not being here today.
She does.
Sorry.
Anybody else want to share any kudos? Happy anniversary to Tiffany and her hubby Mike.
Yay, thank you.
I think Jessica, actually participating in Wilds for Wellness. I'm not sure what that one's referring to. Shout out and kudos to those of you who are doing Miles for Wellness. Week 1 wrapped up last week, and it's now week 2 this week. So, okay.
Shout out to everybody in the room today.
Yes.
I mean, everybody that showed up on the meeting too, but special.
Yeah.
Kudos to those in the space today.
Keith made
Good
his
to see
way
your
all the way
faces.
from Western North Carolina to be with us today. I appreciate you. Yes, we definitely will share the nice things about Charlie Randall. That's a great point. We want to make sure she hears her kudos.
So right now.
All right, folks. Well, anybody else? Otherwise, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
I move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Keith seconds.
Third.
Do I hear any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks to those who could be there in person.
Grab
I
food,
wish I would do.
please, before you leave. We'll get word out to school pharmacy staff. Maybe they can come by and get some stuff. Okay. Okay, the muffins are moving. That's good news.
Pack it up with a note to the housekeeper.
I like that phrase, the muffins are moving.
afternoon.